So the title was God's Plan, My Response. Okay. What I want to do, I want to begin with some definitions and introduce some technical theological terms. So be patient with me on this one. I just went to the books that I have or the internet and Google and just got the definitions that people have. So I didn't make these definitions up or try to be real fancy with them. The first definition, we're talking about God's sovereignty, refers to his supreme authority and absolute rulership over all creation. It means that God is in complete control of everything in the universe, governing all events according to his will and purpose. This sovereignty encompasses not only the creation of the world, but also its sustaining and governing, ensuring that nothing escapes God's notice. In essence, God's sovereignty is a fundamental principle in Christian theology, affirming his preeminence and omnipotence. That's the way you say that? Omnipotence. Thank you. It's omnipotence. It's omnipotence and preeminence and power and authority. Now, omnipotence, that was a new word for me, refers to God's ultimate power and authority over all creation. It signifies that God is all powerful. We know that, right? And that means that all powerful and is a source of all power. So if any power exists, God is the author of it. Omnipotence means that God is limitless in strength, limitless in wisdom, love, justice, and holiness, and can perform his sovereign will without any constraint. Omnipotence is the fundamental to understanding God's nature, as it indicates that he is in total control of himself and his creation. Additionally, it encompasses God's presence and influence throughout all aspects of existence. That's a lot, okay? Preeminence refers to the state of being superior or surpassing all others in authority, rank, and importance. The Bible says, especially in the Old Testament, where people believed in other gods, and that was real to them. So the Bible always said, he's Lord of Lords, King of Kings, God above all gods. So if there were any gods, which we know there aren't, but if they were, he's above them. Okay? So he is Lord, Lord of all. So in the New Testament, it refers and denotes the supreme status of Jesus Christ in relationship to creation and the church. That's a lot. Okay, that's a lot. And I believe all of it. You know, as a Christian, I believe by faith, all of it. But there are times when I look at what's happening in our world and events on the news, and I think to myself, where is this God of heaven? And why is it taking him so long to rescue us? In Jeremiah 18, Judah experienced political turmoil and foreign occupation. They just emerged from the occupation of the Syrians. So that's one nation that just took them over. Right after that, the Babylonians came into power and they took over and they put them into exile. So from one to another. And while they were in exile, the people committed idolatry. Remember I said he's the Lord of this. If they're any of the Lords, he's the Lord of all. They forgot about that and they started worshiping the other gods. The priests and the prophets became corrupt. And social injustice was the norm, especially they neglect the poor, the widows, and the orphans. And even the messenger from God, Jeremiah, even God's messenger, his prophet, they imprisoned him. They threatened him with death. And often, after he prophesied, he had to run away and hide because they went after. They didn't like what he had to say. So what happens when the sovereign God, this God who is all powerful, what happens when God doesn't seem to be around, when life and circumstances seems beyond God's control? What happens? I can look at my own life within the last 10 years and say, God, what happened? Why does it seem like I'm in control and not you? Why am I making these mistakes? Where's God of the heaven, and why is he taking so long to rescue me from myself or the negativeness that surrounds me? I don't know. Have you experienced anything like this? What does faith reveal to us when the world is in chaos and our life seems beyond God's grasp? I think Jeremiah 18 and Romans 9 help us to give a framework that we can use to bring meaning to what's happening in our lives and our chaotic world. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. The word, the prophecy that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. See, a prophecy we think of, most likely we think is foretelling the future. We're going to have prophecy, it's telling what's going to happen in the future. But in the Old Testament, most of the time, a prophecy was a message from God, an urgent message inside the prophet that man or woman had to express and give to the people. The prophecy, the message, the word from God. The prophecy was a message from God. And yes, it was saying to the people in their exile that God is near. God is present. God has a word, a prophecy, a message for you and for us. And what was that message? It says, go down to the potter's house, and there I will give you my message. So I went down to the potter's house, and I saw him working on the wheel, the potter. But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hand. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as it seems best to him, the potter. The pot was marred, defective, damaged maybe, spoiled, just not right. You have the potter molding it, and something just wasn't right with this. It wasn't working out the way he wanted it to work out. So what does the potter do? And this is what I like. He formed it into another pot by shaping it as seemed best for him. He formed it, the clay, into another pot. He did not throw it away. That's what I like. God in his sovereignty, his perfect wisdom, decided not to throw it away. If this was me, I always say, what would I have done? Right? I was making my pot and it's not working out and it just isn't right. It's just, I would have took the clay and did what? The clay's defective, threw that clay away. And let me get a new clay and let me try again. Throw that clay away. Let me get a new clay. Let me try again. God does not throw us away. We are the clay. God does not throw us away. He reshapes us and reshapes us into his image. God does not throw us away. That's good news. That's good news. Especially when we mess up. Especially when we are defective. Especially when we don't live by our core values. Especially when we're deep and lost and don't know how to get out the hole. God doesn't throw us away. He continues to mold and shape us according to his will. According to his will. Then the word of the Lord came to me and said, can I not do with you, Israel, as this potter does, declares the Lord. Like the clay in the hand of the potter, so you are in my hand, Israel. God is in complete control here. Nothing escapes him. That's what we talked about in the beginning. God is limitless in strength, wisdom, love, justice, and holiness, and can perform his sovereignty, his sovereign will without any constraints. But how does God rule in our lives? How does he do this? And it's within a relationship. This is what he said. He said, can I do this? It's by relationship. Relationship is a two-way street. Something God is doing, shaping and molding us. And what do? We respond to that. And how we respond to that will determine the pottery, the end result. So listen what God says to the nation. If any time I announce that a nation or kingdom is to be uprooted, torn down, and destroyed, and if that nation I warn repents of its evil, then I will relent and not inflict on it the disaster I had planned. God, how does God relate to us in His sovereignty? Is that God is a relationship. He's molding and molding. And if we respond in a negative way, He's still molding, still waiting. But what becomes of that will depend on our response. Our response. If we relent, if we repent, if we come back to Him, then He continues to mold us into His image, into what He wants us to be. And look at the warning. And if another time I announce that a nation or kingdom is to be built up and planted, good stuff, and if that kingdom does evil in my sight and does not obey me, then I will reconsider the good that I have intended for them. What God in His wisdom decided that He will form us depending on how we respond to Him. So God is all powerful. Wisdom enables us to be in harmony with His will and purpose for our lives. God is the potter shaping us. And if we become marred or damaged, God does not discard us. God waits for you and me to come to our senses, and God will reshape us into His perfect will. Okay? It's a relationship that we have. There is a warning, though. If God is molding us into good and a good direction, and we decide to go oppositely, then God will relent and reconsider how the pottery will turn out. I'm not saying we lose our salvation or anything like that. I don't want anybody to think about that. God always allows us to secure. But what kind of pottery will we end up with? What will be our legacy? Okay, and it's depending on how we respond to God's shaping and molding. Okay. The warning applies to nations, groups, and individuals. God is doing the molding while He is at work and we're responding. So how does Paul explain God's sovereignty in the book of Romans? It's always important that we look at the passages for where they are, and the people they were with, and make applications there. And if we jump to another passage, we need to be careful that we're not putting too much into it. Okay? But I would like to jump and make the leap and to say that here's what I think that Paul has a different angle to it. Okay? But it's basically the same. So Paul is referring to God's preeminence, the state of being superior or surpassing all others in authority, ranking, or importance. In the biblical content, it often denotes the supreme status of Jesus Christ in relationship to creation and the church. So Paul writes, but who are you, a human being, to talk back to God? In some ways, Paul helps us understand what the relationship looks like and how it sounds. Okay, so as God is shaping us, it's not like we're saying to God, why are you making me like this? Why are you doing this? I want to be another shape, another pottery. At the church that Elmy and I are attending on Wednesday nights, I play the guitar and I lead the music. I can play the guitar okay, but I can't stay in tune. And I pray, Lord, please bring somebody that has a voice, And one time we had a woman who came came as a visitor, and she had a beautiful voice, and we really sang. And when it was over with the service, everybody ran to her and said, please come back, please come back. I was like, come on, folks, I'm right here. sometimes we can't say, God, why did you mold me this way? I want these gifts. I want these things. Who are we to say that? I think that's what Paul is saying here. Shall what is formed say to the one that formed it, why did you make me like this? The potter is not asking a question. The pottery is not questioning the potter. Jeremiah writes that we respond to the shaping of the potter. Does not the potter have the right to make out the same lump of clay, some pottery for special purposes and some for everyday use? There's a song that when I was in my young years by Bill Gaither, something beautiful, something good. All my confusion, God understood. All I had to offer him was brokenness and strife, but he made something beautiful of my life. That is what God desires, to shape us to shape within us something beautiful. Our families, within our church, our neighborhood, and our nation. I haven't yet explored in depth what that special purpose is, or that everyday purpose may mean. So I welcome any insight, Pastor and folks, insight or correction if I'm going in the wrong direction. But my gut instincts, my friends remind me that God shapes us. To living our best life depends on how we respond, accept, and allow God's guidance in his divine plan. For special purposes, consider being creative with your unique talents or gifts. If you can play an instrument, play it and be the best that you can. If you're an artist, be the artist and share. Embrace the role of a parent or a grandparent, a foster parent, a mentor, or step into the leadership roles at work, in church, or within civic or nonprofit organization. They may be your special purposes that God has designed for you. Step into those purposes. Realize that you won't be perfect. Our pastor and I talked about this before the sermon. You know, we shared that we were thankful that the first church that we went to and shared, they were gracious. They were gracious with us. My first experience as a speech therapist at Elizabeth, I just couldn't get a handle on the paperwork. When I went to my supervisor, she was gracious. She didn't throw me away. You know, she helped people to mold and to shape, you know, and now they become a better person. So that is where that special purpose might be. But what could be the common purposes? You might have dual roles. You have a special purpose, but there might be a common purpose also that God is designing and shaping in you. It can be found in ways you express love and service in daily life. You may be known for your kind words or for getting the job done without seeking recognition. Your dependability and teamwork makes a difference. The pastor said that the nominating committee is coming along. That might not be a special purpose. Maybe that's a common purpose that has to happen every year at the church. And you will be dependable. You'll work as a team. And the process will continue in leadership for this church. Whether you were made for special purposes or common, we acknowledge that God is the master shaper, and we respond in harmony with his will. Amen.